Hello everyone, I am Kelshin S. Castillas and I am doing this vlog for my recorded video presentation on our semifinal project for Philosophy 23. So, we are tasked to do a video presentation among four topics given, which are Aristotle on man as rational, Aristotle on Eudaimonia, Aristotle on doctrine of the mean, and St. Thomas Aquinas' natural law. So, for my project, I chose Aristotle on Eudaimonia because I was really eager to learn what the Greek word Eudaimonia is, and I want to know what happiness is, of what really true happiness means. In this vlog, we will look at Aristotle's definition of eudaimonia and its significance, influence on the way happiness and well-being are viewed in positive psychology. Most significantly, through its implication for subjective well-being. So, there are a million of different ways to define happiness, especially in the field of psychology, where operational definitions are a constant work in progress. Eudaimonia is not only one of the oldest, but it has stood the test of time for another reason. So, that reason being, eudaimonia has the whole element of subjectivity built into it. It's simultaneously both less and more prescriptive and dives quite deeply into the ideas of virtues and virtue ethics. So now, let's define eudaimonia. So what is eudaimonia? In its simplest translated form, eudaimonia is often taken to mean happiness. Sometimes it is translated from the original ancient Greek as welfare, sometimes as flourishing, and sometimes as well-being. The concept of eudaimonia comes from Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, his philosophical works on science of happiness. Eudaimonia is about individual happiness. So, according to Deci and Ryan, it maintains that well-being is not so much an outcome or end state as it is a process of fulfilling or realizing one's daemon or true nature. That is, fulfilling one's virtuous potentials and living as one was inherently intended to live. As there are so many different ways to translate the term into English, it may even be helpful to look at the etymology. If it helps to provide more context, eudaimonia is a combination of prefix eu, which means good or well, and daimon, which means spirit. Let's take a look on the brief history of eudaimonia. As noted, the concept of eudaimonia can be traced back to Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. Prior to this, however, Athenian philosophers such as Socrates and Plato, which are Aristotle's mentor, were already entertaining similar concepts. Socrates on eudaimonia. Socrates, like Plato, believed that virtue or arete, the very idea of virtue, was a form of knowledge, specifically a knowledge of good and evil. That is, he saw numerous virtues, justice, piety, courage as united. That is, all were one, and they were all knowledge. Socrates viewed this knowledge as required for us as humans to achieve the ultimate good, which was eudaimonia. And by us, Socrates meant individual. Plato on eudaimonism. On the other hand, Plato believed that individuals naturally feel unhappiness when they do something they know and acknowledge to be wrong. Eudaimonia, according to Plato, was the highest and ultimate aim of both moral thought and behavior. Nonetheless, while Plato was believed somewhat to have refined the concept, he offered no direct definition of it. As with Socrates, he saw virtue as an integral to eudaimonia. One thing is worth noting at this point. If the idea of an ultimate goal for individuals is beginning to sound familiar, rest assured that there is good reason for thinking so. The similarities between eudaimonia and concepts such as Maslow's self-actualization are indeed widely accepted in the psychological literature. Numerous interpretations have been offered to Aristotle's eudaimonia, with a general consensus on the idea that eudaimonia reflects pursuit of virtue, excellence, and the best within us. That is, he believed eudaimonia was rational activity aimed at pursuing what is worthwhile in life. Where Aristotle diverged from Plato and some other thinkers in his belief about what is enough for eudaimonia. For this latter, virtue was enough for the ultimate good, that is eudaimonia. For Aristotle, virtue was required, but not sufficient. In layperson's term, we can't just act with virtues, but we have to also intend to be virtuous too. He believes that happiness and well-being come from how we live our lives, and not in pursuit of material wealth, power, or honor. Rather, eudaimonic happiness is about lives lived and actions taken in pursuit of eudaimonia. If you could ask Aristotle what happiness is, this is exactly what he'd say.
Some identify happiness with virtue, some with practical wisdom, others with a kind of philosophic wisdom, others with this or one of these accompanied by pleasure or not without pleasure, while others include external prosperity. It is not probable that these should be entirely mistaken, but rather they should be right in at least some one respect or even in most respect.
So what is happy life according to Aristotle? Happiness is an intermediate or golden mean between two deficiency and excess. One example of virtue as a mean between two extremes is courage. As a virtue, it's halfway between recklessness and cowardice. Here, we see rational activity aspect of eudaimonia coming back to the fore. We are faced with situations. Therefore, it can be argued that Aristotle isn't giving perspective advice. He is, however, telling us how he believes the rational, virtuous pursuit of eudaimonia might look in an everyday setting. So what is happy life according to Aristotle? Happiness is an intermediate or golden mean between two deficiency and excess. One example of virtue as a mean between two extremes is courage. As a virtue, it's halfway between recklessness and cowardice. Here, we see rational activity aspect of eudaimonia coming back to the fore. We are faced with situations. Therefore, it can be argued that Aristotle isn't giving perspective advice. He is, however, telling us how he believes the rational, virtuous pursuit of eudaimonia might look in an everyday setting. The philosophy behind Aristotle's ethics. As we can now see, Aristotle's eudaimonia is a moral happiness concept. It is very much about living a life in accordance with virtues. But what are these virtues then? One of these is piety. For example, can you be too pious? Some would argue yes, others no. We know Aristotle believes happiness is not about pursuing eudaimonia through various means in order to be happy. That is, he argues, is founded in instrumentality. Happiness, he might be seen as arguing, is once again the rational activity in pursuit of virtue itself. These virtues won't necessarily be cut into stone, but if we ask ourselves what we believe is good or how we should live our lives, virtue ethics would argue that we have at least some starting points. I have here 3 examples of eudaimonic well-being. First is knowing who you really are. Examples of self-discovery might include self-identity knowledge that comes from meditating on your own core beliefs. Or it could be a good understanding of your own personal character strengths and qualities. It could even be self-knowledge that comes from reflecting on your own personal development or the values that you hold important. Second, developing these unique potentials. Someone who scores high on the Eudaimonic well-being questionnaire makes a persistent, committed effort to building on this self-knowledge. Third is using those potentials to fulfill your life goals. Someone who is committed to the pursuit over long term would be a prime example. To end this vlog, I am going to share to you 5 tips on how to achieve eudaimonia. Number 1. Know your life goals. A terribly lofty goal at first glance, but it doesn't mean we need to aspire to achieve something or die trying either. It is seemingly enough to have or to strive to have a sense of core beliefs which guide you, which give meanings to your existence. How about to bring happiness to others or to help those who are suffering? Number 2, focus your capabilities and skills toward achieving those goals. Are you a kind person? Great with kids? A talented doctor? Can you direct skills towards achieving those goals for the sake of practicing virtue? It describes how the idea isn't to become a doctor because that's going to make you happy, but because you're aiming to fulfill your own unique best potentials. And of course, to live in accordance with your virtues. Number 3 is developing your best potentials. It is about being the best you can be, driven by authentic and meaningful goals, stretching that doctor example a little further. This would be distinct from wanting to be the doctor you can be for the pay. Number 4 is get engaged in these activities. To derive meaning from this development is to experience eudaimonia. Why? Because its pursuit itself and eudaimonia is not an end goal. If this all sounds very confusing, it may help back to reflect on Utah and Watersman's definition, in which eudaimonia is the pursuit of virtue, excellence, and the best within us. Number 5 is express yourself. This means a little more than it seems at first glance. Doing things because you derive genuine enjoyment from them and because they're consistent with your view of yourself rather than for the external reward. Thank you for listening. Keep safe. Bye!